And I believe we're live and
She
she
bangs,
bangs.
bangs. Oh, baby, when she moves, she moves. I go crazy cause she looks like a flower, but she stings like a bee. And every girl in history. You bet.
Yay! Bravo! The William Hung. Yes. Anytime I sent a friend the invite for today's show, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have William Hung. They're like, the William Hung, and I'm like, yes, the William Hung, that guy. Uh, um, I think legally we're gonna have to change your name to William hashtag that guy Hung. William, how often do you get that reaction? Are you the William Hung?
Yes, very, very often. And it's really strange that a lot of people don't know my exact name. So they would refer me as the She Bangs guy.
All right, maybe it's William hashtag she bangs guy hung.
No.
So how long ago was it that you were on American Idol, William?
Back in 2004. So that's almost 16 years ago.
Wow, almost 2 decades. Almost 2 decades.
Yes.
So here's what I find fascinating. And as people come on, we're going to pull up their comments. We've already seen questions on the Facebook and the YouTube thread. So we're going to pull people in as they ask questions. They've got some interesting questions for you, especially with recent events. But it's fascinating to me that, William, you not only became famous from that clip and that song that you performed, and by the way, you did it karaoke style, like you or not even, you did it a cappella. You didn't even do it with music or anything in the background, which would scare the crud out of me. So kudos to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about your mindset. I want to talk a lot about what you're doing now, what you've done in the meantime. But one of the things that I have found fascinating is that you got your fame, but most people get their fame and either they leverage it if they win first place, but it's like they're 10, 15 minutes of fame and then you don't hear of them anymore. You leveraged it, I think, better than anyone. And in 2004, if I asked, and I'm going to ask in the comments, and without Google, don't cheat, no one cheat, who was the actual winner of the season in American Idol when William Hung was on the show? Go ahead and type in the name. Only if you remember it, don't Google it. No cheaters. But yeah, so that's what I found is fascinating, William. You stood out in a way that really resonated with Americans, with the world. I believe we're going to have people in from London and Australia. Like, you're world famous. You're not just America famous by being on American Idol. And you did it boldly. I learned from one of your TED Talks recently that you've been on that you had actually won a talent competition. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Like, you didn't just go on green and go, hey, I think I can sing and dance. I'm going to perform. Like, you actually performed on stage before. So let's talk a little, let's just go back a little bit and talk about how you leveraged your fame, what you've been doing since 2004, big debut on American Idol.
Yeah, I was studying civil engineering at UC Berkeley, and then I wasn't like extremely motivated or inspired by the classes I was taking. So one day I saw a poster for a school talent show. I figured, why not? There's nothing to lose. So I started watching and studying the music video from Ricky Martin's She Bangs. And little did I know, I won. The grand prize was a DVD player. So that's what gave me the confidence to audition for American Idol.
Wow. So a DVD player. Can you
Yes.
explain what a DVD player is for the millennials that may be joining us? They may not know what that is.
Okay, a DVD player is a machine that you put in CD and you listen to music. Of course, now we don't really use that. We just use our phone, our mobile phones. But back then, DVD player was something that I treasure a lot.
I feel like the theme in your life, William, is that you have done the things that just make your heart sing.
Yes.
Including right now what you're pursuing, and I'm not going to touch on that just yet. And by the way, those of you who are tuning in live, welcome, thank you. We're going to have another special guest popping in, talking more about behind the scenes Hollywood secrets. They're going to give us an update from last week. So tonight is definitely going to be an entertainment episode, but really with William. we were talking back and forth on the Facebook. It's where I have all my conversations. And we're talking about resiliency in 2020, how people have had to pivot and adjust either their business focus or their goals. And William, you've really done that this year. So that's exciting. But when I watch, I want to go back to talk a little bit about your professional speaking career. You became a motivational speaker.
Yes.
You talked either it was in the TEDx Chula Vista or the TEDx Watts. I think it was the Chula Vista one. And you talked about reframing things and your mindset. So when you heard Simon say something on American Idol, you heard it differently in your mind. Talk a little bit about the mindset, because it's so important these days when people hear things that trigger them or offend them or hurt their feelings or whatever it is. I think if they adopt your mindset, they will be much better off. So share a little bit about how you do that in your mind.
Of course. Well, for the case of Simon Cowell, he has a known reputation to be the one that's brutally honest, to give all the mean comments. Now, I think now he toned down a lot over the years, but back then, yes, he was infamous for that. Like he would tell one of the ladies at the audition, like, your mouth opened so wide that I could drive a train through your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he would say things like that. So in a way, I expected it. I saw it. I predicted it was coming. So that's why I didn't take it personally. And there's a pattern to it too. It seems like Simon is always the mean guy. Randy is somewhere in the middle, and then Paula is always nice. So I just feel like they were just playing their roles. So that's why I didn't take it personally.
Wow. So what you described is something that I don't think a lot of Americans understand, especially when it comes to Hollywood and entertainment. There are characters, and they all play their character role. So you kind of knew what Simon's role is. We did have a question. I don't know if he typed it in the comments with the live. I would pull it up, but I think he just sent it to me. I don't know if he's going to show up, but we had a question from Scott S. Bell. Hopefully he'll show up a little bit later, but his question, or he'll watch from the future. His question for you is that in the recent events with Simon, I don't know if you've seen the news of what happened to him. He wants to know how you felt about his recent accident from the electric bike that he fell off of.
I didn't follow that one. I've been following, watching the news a lot, like especially LA Times and local news, but I just didn't catch that one. But yeah, sorry to hear that. You know, I don't think he's a bad guy by any means. He's just doing his job.
This is what I've been telling my friends. I met William Hung at a writer's retreat in LA, I think in the fall of 2019. I think it was like October or something. And I'm like, he's just such a nice, warm guy. And a friend of mine predicted this would be your answer, just warmth and love back to Simon, even though he was this mean guy. And I'm like, anyone who has empathy just feels right anytime Simon does that. And I've noticed, I don't know if you still follow American Idol, but I've noticed in this season, and I don't know if it's a recent thing or not, but they're much more kind to people.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good trend, but I think it also loses the original flavor that what made American Idol the phenomenal success that it had earlier. Because back then it stood out, right? It's one of a kind. You never see other shows where like if you sing and you don't do so well, you would get the most brutal comments ever.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, mindset, right? We can shift it and either take things personally. And for anyone who has an empath heart, it just pains us. I was watching Paula in that clip. I just rewatched it recently, and I'm like, that would be me, right? I just want to encourage people to pursue their dreams. And the other thing too is that when you're performing, you love what you do. You love singing. You love dancing. And I'm going to read a comment from April, and then I have a question for you about your future and seeing things with Ricky Martin, because I don't know if anyone ever expected that. But April Roga, love that you're here live. She says, so many people these days walk on eggshells with other people instead of speaking what's on their mind, unless you're from Jersey. But Simon's honesty is refreshing, even if it is a part of a role he's playing. And that is something that you understood. That's just what happens. It's not. Yeah. So that's beautiful. Oh, and we have Sharon Worsley, and she's coming in from Canada. She popped in. I think Simon has become softer over the past few years. He's mellowed. Yeah, I think that comes with age, perhaps. And so something not many people know, I think some of my clients know this, but Paula Abdul, and I don't know if it was that season or after that, I actually helped her and her team get on Twitter. So, Yeah, so that was fun. I literally had, as an assignment, had to watch American Idol in order to be able to know how to coach them on how do you engage with, like, this is really when Twitter first came out, especially and I don't think they were on Twitter when you were there, because I think it was more like 2006,
Yeah,
2007. But yeah, that's a little side fact about that show. So
cool.
what I want to talk about now is how you progress, how you leveraged your fame,
Mhm.
and you went on to uh,
Jay Leno.
talk to Jay Leno, Ellen DeGeneres, and then you got to perform with Ricky Martin. I mean, this is it's just been, you've led such an exciting whirlwind life in entertainment. So tell us a little bit about the whirlwind after American Idol, and then we'll catch up to present day.
Sure. Well, it was a dream come true. I didn't expect all the fame and fortune that came out of my American Idol audition. A few days later, after Fox broadcasted my audition, one of my fans created a website called WilliamHung.net. And somehow it got over 8 billion hits in less than a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what got the record company, Koch Records, interested. They called me, they talked to me about it, and then they were willing to take a chance on me by giving me a $25,000 record contract. To put
Wow.
it into some context, $25,000 back in 14, 16 years ago for a college kid was life changing money.
Yeah. Yes. No kidding. No kidding. And then you went back to college. So you went to college and then you went back. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so what happened was that it took me a while for me to decide whether I want to move forward with the record contract, because I knew that I didn't have the best talent. But I also know that I don't want to have regrets later on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about like what allowed me to make the decision, because it's not just the money. I'm not
Yeah.
that guy, right? It's not like, okay, you give me a lot of money, I'm going to do whatever you want. I'm not like
Right.
that.
Right. Right. Right.
Instead, what happened was there was this guy writing an article about me saying that I committed suicide due to heroin overdose. And that article still lives today on the internet.
Whoa. Wow. People are trolls. There are people out there that just, wow. Wow.
Yeah. I
Not
knew he wasn't serious about it, but it bothered me. It bothered me because I don't like people making up stories about me that's not true. Uh,
right.
so that's why I felt that I need to stand up because in life you have a choice. You
Mm,
live your life with courage, or you hide yourself in fear and hope that
yeah.
people forget about
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And that was what one of the things you focused on with your book that you wrote this past
Yeah,
year and published, is this courage and not living in fear and the choice. So that was your theme with the TEDx in Chula Vista. Please watch that. Those of you who are watching now, obviously wait until we're done with the live interview, but I'll put a link to the Chula Vista TEDx talks. I loved what you said about about having a choice. Can you walk us through a little bit about how you heard what Simon said and then you had a choice, or what you heard? If you could just kind of share that clip.
yeah,
I was going to I
absolutely.
was going to pull up the TEDx, but I didn't want to get this
Right. No, that's
interview
fine.
banned.
Right. So I would say that what Simon said didn't bother me as much as the other critics outside of American Idol.
Mm-hmm.
One of the Fox News anchor, John Beard, said William Hung is the worst singer ever.
Mm.
It's like, what? What did I do to you, right? I just went to try out like everybody else.
Right.
So why are you saying this? And
Right.
and then some of the people said I portray the biggest Asian stereotypes. So
Mm.
and the reason they might have said that is because I do look like a nerdy kid. I stutter a little bit. I don't speak perfectly, but it's okay. Why I believe that everyone has a right to try something new without being judged or ridiculed.
Yeah.
Because think about your life if you're making that comment. I mean, don't you have something new that you need to try and fail forward with before you can succeed?
I love this, William, and especially what I've noticed in talking to you, like what you were saying something about you just that, oh, you stutter sometimes. When I'm talking to you and we're having a conversation, your words flow. And I have clients that I coach when we're doing video production, and that's some of the things that people are concerned with. They trip over their words, and first I tell them not to worry. That's what editing is for. But second part of it is that it's really for people to get to know, like, and trust you,
Yeah.
And even if we have flaws and we fail a little bit, that's not something that ultimately people judge us for in business, especially if we're just being genuine and real. And you ooze genuineness and realness. And I love that you're encouraging people that, it's okay. Hey, you don't necessarily speak perfectly all the time, and yet you went for it. The other thing too is you're even saying with the record deal, okay, you knew you didn't have the best voice
Yeah.
or dance moves, but yet you went for it anyway. And here's the thing, people, right? Like, especially if you are thinking about doing video for business and you've stopped yourself, or if you've heard me since 2001 saying that your first video is going to be your worst video, think about what William Hung did. He not only started his video on YouTube and put it out there for everyone, he went on stage. That was his first video and it blew up, but he leveraged it. He altered his mindset about what people were saying. He leveraged it. So if William Hung can do it and make a success and create a speaking career, get a record deal, become a motivational speaker, speak on TEDx stages. I think there were not one, but two TEDx speeches, one year after another, write a book, right? So if you're letting fear stop you from doing something because you're not perfect at video, let William be your example. And we also have in the green room someone from Hollywood that will reiterate what you have to say, William. We'll bring him on in a few minutes. I have a few questions here. One from April Roga. Big fan of the show. Love when she's here. How being an American Idol made me resilient, William Hung. Oh, she's sharing it. Thank you. And then Sharon says, but William, you are being true to yourself. And also William or April was asking how you cope with the trolls and haters. And you sort of answered that, but if you can concisely give us an answer, how you handle those trolls when they are saying something mean and it hurts you. How do you handle that?
I would say that you try to take in the constructive criticism that you can use to improve yourself, and then ignore the rest, because that's all you can do. You can't please everybody.
Someone, if they can write that down as a comment, ignore the rest. I love the no regrets. And then Regur has a question. I think of him as the You Do It guy. He has a You Do It station on YouTube, and he teaches people how to do things. Very handy guy. And he says that he's a software engineer and he has a knack for process improvement. Could you go into some of the details on how you improve your department's process, and how has that success given you street cred and created new opportunities for you? So give people a background a little bit, if they only know you as the American Idol guy, what you did with your engineering degree, and perhaps the algebra math song you might be able to sing for us as well.
Okay, let me clear some things up. I did not graduate my engineering degree. I graduated with a math degree 4 or 5 years later after American Idol back in 2004. In terms of how I improve my the department's process, so let me give some context to what happened to that. So after about 4 years in the entertainment business, my career slowed down. So I feel that I need to make a different choice. So I decided to finish my degree, got my degree in math, and then I worked for the sheriff's department for a couple of years. And then while I was working there, I noticed that the reporting and the tracking system was very manual based. So it was very tedious, even for me. Right? It's like it's not fun. So that's why I did a lot of self study and research, and I built an assets database with a few colleagues together. And yeah, that's how I make everything more efficient. Basically, I turned something that's manual into something that's more automated.
So when I learned that you were a math teacher and you were teaching people algebraic equations and you had a song, by the way, I had a teacher that taught us a song, and that's how I absolutely did well in math because of her. So I love that you did that, because our brains remember in song much better than just looking at something and looking at a confusing equation. So bless you for that creativity. But I as a personality and behavior analyst, I look at that and go, wow, math and this creative side to you in entertainment is an interesting dichotomy. So you don't normally see the two. Do you ever battle with that, this creative side, but this math brain as well?
Yes, because I'm always have to balance between the rational and the irrational. Because there's a side of me that's always thinking, okay, how do I chase my dreams in an authentic way? because whenever I speak, as a professional speaker, I don't just go tell people chase your dreams, give up your responsibilities, quit your job tomorrow. Okay,
Right.
that's terrible when you chase your dreams.
It's good advice.
Yeah. So, but you're on the other side, we also have to be like go for it, because otherwise, at the end of your life, you make a decent amount of money. Yes, you have retirement and all that, but then what did you accomplish in your life? So it's very hard to find the balance between those two.
Yeah. So I think I'm about ready to go to our second special guest as a reoccurring guest. We're going to keep bringing him back on the show, but don't go anywhere, William. And for those of you who are here live, thank you for joining us. Drop a question for William Hung. Yes, that guy from American Idol. When we come back from our special guest, we'll talk about what you're doing now, William, which once again, you're pursuing your dreams. You've pivoted in 2020 because your professional speaking career isn't exactly a big thing right now, since there are no events that you can go and present at. So we'll talk a little bit about that, because what you're doing now in 2020, I am super jealous of. And it's perhaps, I'll reveal this now, it's a secret desire of something that I've always wanted to do. So let's pull up Mr. David H. Lawrence the 17th. Hopefully you're ready and you're not picking your nose. He's in the green stream. We're going to add you to the stream, David H. Lawrence the 17th. I always have to point the other way.
Thank God.
Welcome, David.
I was so hoping that it wasn't going to be me instead of William. Because I'm a huge fan, number one.
Thank you.
I've seen both the TEDx Watts and the TEDx Chula Vista video. And I think that William is a proponent of using 6 of the most underrated words in order in the English language. And that was, what did I have to lose? If you look back through all of the things that he's talked about and all of the things that he's done, the choices that he's made, let's talk about him as though he isn't really here.
Okay.
If you look at all of the things that he's decided to do, he has always weighed in a very binary way. What did I have to lose? And then he usually says 5 of the most underrated, second most underrated words. I had everything to gain. It's like we never take that first step. I see this all the time. There are so many people who want to be actors, want to be voice talent. They want to do what I do. I've had people say to me, I really wish I could do what you do because I really want to do it. And I can't get that first moment going. I can't get that first start. And when you say, what did I have to lose? Or, I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. It gives you that moment where you can go, okay, I'll risk it. If I fail, I fail. I learned something.
Yes.
But I love that about him. So there you go. A little fawning on William Hung.
I love it. More fans, William Hung. And for those of you who are joining us live, our special guest is David H. Lawrence the 17th. He is America's favorite villain who played not 1, not 2, but 3 seasons of The Puppet Master in the famous TV series Heroes. I almost said Webby series because there was also the Webby series that was a spinoff of the TV series, but on TV. So if you don't know David H. Lawrence the 17th, that's who he is. And last week he was our special guest. He was talking about getting back into Hollywood on the set post-COVID. And now you weren't able to reveal a few things because you had some mum's the word NDAs that you signed, but did your bit just air like an hour?
Yeah, no, it didn't.
Okay. and we talked a little bit about that too.
Even if it had, I couldn't have watched it because our illustrious governor preempted us today. Preempted the show. Yeah. So, I was supposed to be on today. Apparently I'll be on tomorrow or Friday. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm one of those people who never really promote the fact that I'm going to be on the television or on radio. Television for very particular reasons. Number one, usually you're under NDA. And also there is a chance that you'll get edited out of whatever airs.
This time by the governor.
Or you'll be preempted by the governor. And and then not only did the governor preempt us, but then the city of Los Angeles jumped in with their 2 cents on what's going on with the COVID thing. And I'd rather the population see that information than, see me on a television show anyway. But yeah, it just, that's just the way it happens. and you just have to deal with it. My mom called. She was very disappointed.
Oh,
She's like, I got all my friends together. You have no idea how hard it is to get people up the stairs when they're 90. So but that's okay. She'll figure it out.
She's a regular fan of your show every day, right? This is a show that airs every day.
I'm not on it every day. I just did a guest shot on it. I don't know if she's a fan of the show. By the way, the show is The Bold and the Beautiful. It's public knowledge now. I actually had a conversation with one of their producers. I said, am I still under NDA now that Access Hollywood has done a story on it? And I've been in the story. And, because the story was all about how Hollywood is back in business. It's slowly but surely ramping up with a new set of protocols to keep people safe on set. One of Simon's other shows, America's Got Talent, they did their first live show last night, and it was very interesting the way they had everybody set up. Everybody had their own 7-foot table. The audience wasn't an audience. There was this CGI effect of walls and walls and walls of like a huge Zoom webinar with all the audience watching. In general, there have been some changes that have had to have been made. But man, if there's any facet of society that's creative enough to work around a pandemic, it would be the performing arts section of society. So they've figured it out. More and more people are going back to work. I heard that SWAT is back in production. A couple of other shows that had said they weren't going to go back to production until October. They're back now. But even then, with the show that I'm on, they just stretch out those storylines like crazy. I've been watching this thing move forward towards what I'm going to be in for 5 days now, and it's the same conversation in the same room, and that's what soaps are famous for. Yeah. So who knows? I may not be on until November.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and apparently April is a big fan of, super fan of Bold and the Beautiful. I remember back in the day, my grandmother watched that show, and I noticed the same thing with soap operas. It's like, this is the same thing that happened. You could tune in months later. This is one of our favorite pastimes as a lifeguard in the summertime. I'm like, I haven't watched this since last year, and it's the same plot point. One thing I wanted to bring you in on the conversation, David, and we're getting a slight echo. I don't know if y'all can hear that. I don't know where. Oh, it just came out. We're good. But one of the things that William Hung was talking about before, as far as just going for it, right? And you don't just totally pursue your dreams, and that's what you're chiming in on. But what are your thoughts about? Because this is what I think William is best at. He is not boring. Right? You either be the best at something or be really interesting, because being interesting may get you to be more famous than being second or third or whatever. Like, you can come in last place, but if you're interesting and people love you, you can leverage that fame. So the interview that we edited, David, when you were here in San Diego, I told you privately, I'll say this publicly, it was one of the easiest interviews to edit because he has all these facial expressions, and I was able to zoom in on things, and he pauses dramatically, right? And you pull in from Hollywood and from your actor training. And again, I see William do this where he's entertaining because he's engaging and he has no fear. So talk a little bit about not being boring in Hollywood, David, and maybe some of the things that William does best.
So for me, I don't know how William does it. I think William has some attributes that I don't have. He's a lot younger than I am. He's a lot quicker to laughter than I am. He's got a much more he graduated college. I made it to the first month of my sophomore year, and then I quit. So he's got stick-to-itiveness. I think that there's a very easy way to be interesting. If you find yourself concerned that you're not interesting enough to other people, you go to parties and people are constantly looking over your shoulder while they're talking to you, and looking to see if there's somebody more interesting to talk to, if that's the impression that you have. I was taught a lesson very early in my training in acting, and that is, you will be extraordinarily interesting if you are extraordinarily interested in things. If you are like I am extraordinarily interested in having this conversation with you, and I don't stare at you, but I do let you know that I'm not focusing on anything but you. And if I was talking about a particular subject, I would be concentrating on that subject and how interesting it is to me. I find myself on the dark side of this issue, not understanding sometimes how to level properly. Like I get way too detailed about things that I'm fascinated with. But when you are interested in something, people can't help but wonder why. They can't help but wonder, why is he so enthusiastic about telling me about coinage in the revolutionary times and why that was picked over paper? I was just listening to Hamilton, and they talked about why he did that and why he chose banknotes over bills and so on. It just I find life fascinating, and when you express that, people gravitate towards that interest. When you think about the greatest storytellers in the world, the reason you're sitting there going, well, okay, yeah, is because they are just keyed in and so excited about saying what they're saying. William and you both demonstrate this. You are so enwrapped with what you do. So that's how one way you can, if you don't find yourself to be, oh, nobody pays any attention to what I do. If you're one of those people, you can easily just get engaged, get focused in what you're talking about, and you'll find everything changes for you.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you, David, you were talking last week about how your friends in Washington were shocked that you were pursuing this career in acting and moving to LA, and you were in the radio business for the longest time, which is a very secure type of job, and then going into the TV.
Oh, wait, hold on. Radio's not secure.
Not anymore.
No.
20 years ago.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and that's what I thought was interesting, because when back in the day when your friends were like, "What are you doing?" And I think your stats were there were 94 people to fill positions that were 100. So it's pretty much easy to fill a radio job versus a TV show job, which is so extreme opposite with the odds. But yet now, what is it? Fast forward 20 years? Is it 20 years that you've been in show business, in TV? Like
15,
now,
yeah.
So now newspaper, radio, all the things that seemed to be secure back in the day, not so secure anymore. And video is the thing, right? And you're able to leverage that with video. And William's taking it to the next level. I want you to share and reveal what you're doing, because I think that's that next thing, that next career that you could do from home when everyone's looking to find a job that's working from home, and not to mention doing something that you love. So I feel like you're doing something similar to what David did, where people are like, what are you doing? So share what you're doing, William, as this next phase in your life pursuing your dreams.
Sure. So here's what I do now to keep my lights on. I do personalized shout outs for apps like Cameo, Starsona, and Celeb VM. So I get like hundreds of requests a month, which is amazing, given this life situation, right? The world situation.
Yeah.
I could ever ask for. And then I'm also doing pretty well with stock investing. So that gives me a lot of comfort and flexibility to go after my dreams. And then my passion project that I'm working towards now is to create gaming content for the Romance of the Three Kingdoms 14. So I'm already negotiating a contract with companies Rain and Livet. So that's what I'm working on now. I don't know how everything will shake out, but that is okay. Like I agree that with what some of the things that David said, it's like you want to do something that's interesting to you, and then when you're obsessed enough, you show that genuine interest towards it. That's when people will connect with you. And yes, it might not be like 10,000, 100,000 people that's gonna follow you, but the right people will follow you, and that's what you want.
Yeah. Thoughts on that, David?
Well, I mean, people try to, or maybe they make an assumption up front that they need to be, especially actors, because when you get into acting, you sometimes have the assumption that you want to be as varied as possible, as versatile as you possibly can be. Can I play a 4-year-old Appalachian girl? Sure, I can. Sure, I can. Yeah. But the truth is, if you really stick to your knitting and you get to know what your brand is, and you get to know what you do best, and you explore from time to time, you pivot when you need to pivot, but instead of trying to be everything to everybody, I focused on what was obvious. Paul Giamatti meets Uncle Fester. I mean, I'm a creepy evil villain. It's not very obvious. It wasn't very obvious to me. I thought I was just going to be, a goofy fat guy on sitcoms. But then when this was handed to me, when this whole villainous thing was handed to me, and I found that I could play that, even though I'm not really villainous as a person, I was very excited about playing those roles and sticking in that lane, because it's an incredibly rich lane to explore.
Yeah.
It's got wonderful scenery and a lot of really great fast food restaurants along the way. So
now, do you ever do anything with Cameo, David?
I'm in that area of fame, if fame is the right word, where I don't think I would do well on Cameo, because I'd get a lot of this when people would scroll by me in the list of people that you could buy autographs and shout outs from. Who? I'm not famous enough, and I don't care to work to be famous enough to do well on sites like that. There have been many, many sites like that over the years. William Shatner started a site like that around the time that I was on Heroes, and because William Shatner is the king of all cons, not cons in terms of confidence games, but cons in terms of conventions. When he shows up at a convention, you have to have big, huge garbage bags to carry away all the money that he makes. So he's got that down to us. Like, he will go to a convention, and if you want him to insult you, that's $75. So he's got it down. I just don't think I'm at the level of notoriety or awareness that William's at, where he can capture that and use it to his advantage. I don't think I'm at that space.
So here's what's interesting, David and William. Tell me what you think about that, or what your perception of that is, because what I see is, here's David H. Lawrence, 17th. He's been in like 50 different roles on TV. He's gotten gigs, paid, right? He's literally in the Hollywood TV business, right? Yeah. You went on an American Idol once, right? And then leveraged that, right? You leveraged that. Four times on American Idol?
Yeah.
Oh, we froze. I don't know if I'm just froze. Go ahead.
No, he was on more than once. He was on, the big one was once, but then he came back.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know that. Wow, you were a reoccurring guest on American Idol. And yet Simon said you can't sing, you can't dance, and yet you got back 3 times after Simon gave you. So, like, for anyone watching, right, don't take negative feedback seriously. Do what William does. What did you say in your TEDx talk? When Simon says one thing, you reframe it to mean what? Come back 3 more times?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't expect that. It's not something I have control.
Well, to me, and David, this is the word that I think of with William. He's iconic, right? He's a brand of himself. He's iconic. He didn't have to be the best. He didn't have to be the best at singing, at dancing. He was genuine. And then his response of, hey, I did the best I can. And you talk about that in your book and in your speeches, William. But you were iconic and you were genuine. And I think that's the thing that connects people. And that's the thing that if any business owner is in going on video and turning on the live and afraid, like, oh my gosh, I might slip something up, or I might not remember a word because it's live. Just be iconic, be you, be a brand. And David, what would you brand William as? Like, what would you say his brand is? If you're the evil villain and Uncle Fester, what would William's brand be?
I mean, William is very much aware of his joys and his limitations. And I think that he knows full well that he's not a great singer and doesn't really care. All he knows is he loves singing. He loves She Bangs by Ricky Martin. What I love about him is that he has this great memory. He remembers what place he came in talent shows, what the prize was. Like, he finds joy in things in life, even when it doesn't end up with the best outcome it possibly could be.
Right.
And I think that people often, we have this society, this cancel culture in society now, that is the result of people wanting to feel as though they're better than the people who are suffering. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people watch William and they go, wow, at least that's not me. And I feel sad about that, because you never know what kind of joy you can get from just being you. You know, if you're not trying to be someone else, if you're not trying to be a better version of yourself, I think we talked about this.
Yes.
William's very good at being him.
Yes.
And he's not sitting there trying to figure out necessarily what his shortcomings are and how to get rid of those shortcomings and become somebody that he is not. Rather, he celebrates the joy of what he loves. And if more people did that, if more people made that their goal, rather than I'm going to be the next Beyonce, or I'm going to be the next, you know, Matt Damon, or I'm going to be the next Jimmy Kimmel, or I'm going to be the next Coach Deb, you know, if they just concentrated on being themselves and being the version of themselves that they're most comfortable with, they're most authentic with, they're most authoritative with, oh my God, the world would be such a better place.
And April says that she would pay you, David, $75 to insult her so she can get used to the theater. So you might have a thing. You might have a thing after all in Cameo. Thoughts, William, and then I want you to talk a little bit about streaming and what you're doing now. And this is something you are good at. You hit first place. Talk a little bit about that, poker and gaming and streaming. I think that is one of the most fascinating industries that's vastly growing right now.
Yeah, well, I would say that it's like I've had to figure out what to do during this COVID-19 pandemic. That, like you mentioned, all the live speaking events are either canceled or postponed. So you know, now is the time for me to pivot and try something new. And you know, and for me, I used to have a problem being stuck with the how. Like, how is this going to happen? Right? Am I going to get the enough followers or momentum or whatever? And maybe we should take a step back. I agree with David, right? Like, maybe take a step back and not be so worried about the how. Now I realize the reason I wake up every day is because I believe everyone has a right to try something new without being judged or ridiculed.
Can you say that again, William? Because I think that's powerful.
Yeah. So I used to be stuck worrying about the how. How is this going to happen for me? Is it through apps like Cameo? Is it through like getting entertainment gigs, whatever, right? But when I take a step back and reflect on my life, the reason I'm still excited to wake up each day is because of my spiritual mission. Because I believe everyone has a right to try something new without being judged or ridiculed.
I want to just give him a standing ovation for that. That's beautiful, beautiful. Like that, those words should sit on everyone's heart right now. And I hope they're writing it down, putting it on a Post-it, put it on your computer, because I think that's what holds so many of us back, right? We're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of being made fun of. We're afraid of so many things, rejection. And you faced all of those things on American Idol. And you survived and thrived and leveraged it. You got a $25,000 record deal, right? You're famous on Cameo, right? Here's David. He's professional in Hollywood. And he's saying, I'm not as famous as this William Hung guy, right? Who wasn't the best singer, who wasn't the best dancer. But do you think you could be one of the best gamers? What do you think, William? Do you feel like that's one of those things you're really good at?
I would say that is all relative in terms of like being like the top gamer in a given space, like League of Legends or not a big game like a first person shooting game. That might not be it, because even though I'm very competitive, I take what I do very seriously. I don't think I have that elite talent. So I think it's okay for me to explore a different direction by maybe creating gaming content for games that are actually good, but people might not realize. Not too many people play. It's not as mainstream, right? So I'll give that a shot and then see what happens. Yeah,
I love it. I love the attitude, right, David? Like the attitude of William is one we can all model. And are you able to share the deal that you're trying to negotiate? Any names there?
Like I mentioned, I'm discussing the details with Livid and Rain right now. So Rain is the company that wants to consider sponsoring me, and then Live It is it's like a streaming platform. It's a different platform, but it's a streaming platform similar to Twitch.
Right. Right. So that what I think is great, William, is that you're introducing another streaming platform to people, and they're hearing about Livid perhaps for the first time from you. So thank you. So
No problem.
That's awesome. Technology, it's great.
Yeah.
So if you have any other questions, those of you who are live, drop them in the comments. We'll pull that up. Any last thoughts to share to encourage people, William, as far as what you've pursued and what you talk about in your TEDx talks?
I would say that never give up your dreams and chase your dreams authentically every day. One of the useful questions that I'll have your listeners and walk away with is, what is one fun thing you can do to align with your mission?
Mm-hmm. How about what's your answer, David? Anything?
What was the question?
What is one
fun thing you can do each day to align with your mission?
So my mission is I perform. I have a double mission. I perform, and I teach other people how to do what I do. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I do every day is I wake up and I think to myself, how can I help? How can I help my production partners tell their stories when I'm an actor, when I'm a voice talent? And how can I help my clients, my students, create the kind of practice, voiceover practice or acting practice, that makes them happy, makes them money, lets them eat, that truly helps them claim honestly that they are a professional performer. Mm-hmm. And I kid you not, every morning I have this big sticky note on my in my studio upstairs. How can I help? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how when you do that, the help that you get in return is 10 times what you give. Mm-hmm. At least it has been for me.
Yeah. I'm going to write that on a sticky note and put it up here. How can I help? I love that question. And David, one of the things I don't know if, let's see if I don't mess up the white balance here. How can I help? Is that normal? Can you read that normal? Is it backwards?
No, it looks good.
Okay. So now I'm putting this on my computer here. If you saw my computer, you'd see Post-it notes everywhere. One of them is always be recording, and the other is always be smiling. Because a lot of times I'm, seriously, or I'm trying to look at comments and pull them up, and you just get distracted and you forget, like, this is fun.
Yeah.
So I have to be reminded of doing that. So David, one of the things William Hung said earlier, and it's what you touched on in our interview at that hotel. And do you remember the hotel that we did the interview? Because people have been asking. I can't remember.
The DoubleTree in San Diego downtown.
The DoubleTree, and it used to be an old bank.
Yeah, well, was it a bank? Yeah, it was a bank, because it's actually on the Register of Historic Sites. When they went in there to redo it, they had to make sure they left behind a lot of the stuff from the 20s and 30s and 40s, like trust department upstairs. Yeah, it's fascinating. Fascinating.
Prettiest DoubleTree lobby I think I've ever seen. It was never would have I guessed. I was like, what? No, someone was like, is that the Hyatt? I'm like, no, it's just some hotel. One of the things he talked about that you touched on in that interview is William said, sometimes I stutter and sometimes I don't speak it perfectly. And again, I can't sing the best. What is your encouragement to the viewers who are doing video? They're professionals, they're realtors, they're doctors, they're coaches, they're authors, but they're afraid that they're not going to be perfect. So any final tips and strategies for people who can't get out of their head with the fear?
Yeah, I wish I'd known you were going to ask this question, because I have a video on my computer that I could play for you. It's about 1.5 minutes, but it's basically an example that I share with my students about authenticity. And there is a software company in Australia whose marketing manager, named Alex, has a very severe stutter. And yet he does all of the company's videos. And he starts each video with, my name is Alex. I work at such and such a place. And when I get really excited about things, I sometimes stutter. And then he goes on. That's all he says about it. He has reset people's expectations and their positioning about him and his stutter. And when he stutters, they instantly have connected. Oh, he must be excited about that. Yeah. He must be enthusiastic about that. Yeah. And it's amazing how reframing can make a huge difference in your life. I forget who I was watching that said, instead of, oh, I know who it was, Jody Bentley. Instead of, I have to do this, I get to do this.
Yep.
You know? And that's just one of several different ways of reframing things that I've been sharing with my students and my clients forever. Because if it wasn't for reframing, I don't think anybody would try anything new.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
So, yeah.
Agree. I love that, David. And that was one of the side conversations David and I have been having in our DMs as far as, oh my gosh, like, did you take NLP because you're a master at it? Even in the interview, William, I don't know if you watched his interview, but he's like, tell me more. And I was like, oh, he pulled a puppet master on me and I had to tell him more. It's compelled, right? Like, I was like, was that his acting talent and training? Were you formally trained in NLP, David?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're really
I learned NLP from Carl Buchheit up at NLP Marin, and he was one of Bandler and Grinder's students back at UC Santa Cruz.
Oh, wow.
And he's added some things to it over the years. He added hypnotic language. And truthfully, that whole thing of tell me more, that really didn't have anything to do with NLP. It was a joke about, really, don't encourage me. Don't say anything don't say anything good about me. It was just one of those things that I saw on television 100 years ago, and I thought, that's hysterical. Stop. But no, go ahead, continue. Yeah. So that was, I mean, maybe it was NLP, maybe it fit within NLP's framework, but when I think of NLP, I don't think of that sort of thing. But I can tell you that NLP, I had to stop using NLP with regard to my acting.
Yes.
Did I tell you this already?
You were telling me in a DM, so I love this. Tell the viewers, because this is
So NLP's goal is to help you align your emotional state, your map, your behaviors with what you want, and to work against, and help resolve things that are in conflict in your life, or if you're a practitioner, in other people's lives. And so I thought, hey, I'm an actor. I know NLP. I'm going to use NLP on my characters. I'm going to find out what it is. I'm going to dive deep and get on their map. And what I found was, because NLP reduces conflict, if it's done properly, if it's done, with effectiveness, that wasn't helping me, because with characters, you want to amp up the conflict.
Yeah.
So I had to stop doing that and just stick to the knitting of, what do they want? Who's stopping them from getting it? Who wants to help them get it? What's going to happen when they get it? There are some questions that you can ask, but actually doing NLP reframing and outcome frames and work on it. I couldn't do that with my characters anymore, because I was lessening the heat. I was dropping the heat of the acting scene.
Yeah. And when you said that, I'm like, wow, that would be hard for me to play either a villain or a Simon character, because Simon's role, and that's what William was talking about in the beginning of the show, is he didn't take it personally, because that's Simon's role, to be the villain, to be the mean guy, to really be direct. And he's exemplifying the conflict and the tension, right? Like, your job was to increase that tension, just like Simon's was. So that's something, again, you did masterfully, and that's why you got a second and third season on Heroes, David, because you were able to do that. So that is just genius. That is just genius.
Thank you. Tell me more.
See how this works? William, were you trained in NLP? Because same thing, when I watched your TED Talk, you were talking about how you were reframing and how Simon would say something or someone, and what you heard was, and you literally reframed it. So is it something that you learned, or is it just something that came natural?
Yeah, I don't have any formal training, but more like what I learned throughout my life. So one of my biggest influences is actually my mom. Because my mom, she's not someone that pushed me that I had to get straight A's in school, in Hong Kong. So instead, she's a firm believer that as long as you try your best, whatever happens is okay. And I take that life philosophy and I apply it throughout my life.
And that's exactly what your response was. And again, that's the training from your mom. She instilled that, like, hey, I did my best, Simon. I did my best. When did you come? Was it straight to California, or when did you come to America from Hong Kong?
1993.
How old were you?
10 years old.
because I don't want to do math in my head to figure out when, how old.
Okay.
So 10 years old, you came here. Now, did you speak English when you first came here? Did you have to learn the language?
I had to learn the language, but I knew a few like greetings, order food, things like that. But there's a lot I had to learn. It's like a 3-year process for me.
So food, like the important survival things.
Yeah.
Anytime we go to another country, you're like, baños is what you learn. Where's the bathroom once you go to a resort in Mexico? And then, food. I remember I had to really learn better Spanish when I was in Spain, and I ordered something like some type of crepe, and I wanted like a chicken crepe, and I got something completely different. I'm like, I need to learn how to order, because this was a little area that there was really no English speaking. So I had to you have to do sign language, chicken, right? Like, how do you get what you want? But that's a huge motivator to learn something. So huge respect for anyone that comes to this country, has to learn the language, the culture. So massive kudos to you, William, and give yourself a break and let yourself off the hook. And I didn't really hear you stutter at all, if even once during this interview. So I think I love what David was talking about, the whole reframe. Hey, sometimes I stutter when I'm excited. And then now I love that reframe, Dave. I love that. So any of you listening, if that is something like sometimes you step over your words because you get excited, just use that in your live videos. Let them know that. So when you're getting to know people who might be a potential client, whatever you do, they'll be able to reframe that and they won't be distracted. And the other biggest thing too, and you guys can add to this or debate it. But I think the biggest thing with what both David and William are saying is, even if it just gives you permission, because then you're not stuck in your head anytime you either stutter or don't speak properly or trip over your words or don't say something right, you just let it go. And then you move on to what's really important, which is the content. And again, remember, don't be boring. Learn from William Hung. No matter what you do, even if you're not the best at it, don't be boring, and you might be as famous as William and be able to do appearances on Cameo. Thoughts, David, William, as we wrap up?
I just feel like one of the lessons that I teach my clients over and over and over again is to disabuse the notion that they have to remove all their breaths and from their professional work and their ums and ahs from their presentation work if they're doing a video. I hate the fact that and these are called vocalization bridges. There's the California you ask me a question and then the answer might begin with, so, yeah, and all that is a moment that you're gathering your thoughts, and it's, or the New York list. I went to the store and then I took the dog to the vet and then I took him out shopping, that up at the end of every item in the list. These are habits that are colloquializations, they're regionalisms that we use. Don't try to tamp those out. If they're okay for what you're doing. If what you're doing is a recorded piece, like if you're doing an audiobook, you can't change the words. But if you're doing an audiobook, you also don't want to remove all your breaths. You want to learn to breathe properly, and that's not hard to do because we've been doing it our whole lives. But this whole notion of I have to figure out how to fix all the things that are wrong with me. They're you. They're not wrong with you. They are you. And you may cringe, but you're your own worst enemy. The people that are watching, they don't care. Unless it's egregious. They just don't care. They want the content that you're putting forth. They want to know what you have to say about the subject they tuned in for. That's the thing. There's this overreach on trying to be perfect, and it's just not necessary.
I don't know how you were ever able to be a villain, David. You're so encouraging. I don't get it. I don't know how you were successful at that. 3 seasons, no less.
I read the lines.
Now, by the way, were you on Heroes when there was the writer's strike?
I came on to Heroes after the writer's strike. The writer's strike was in season 2.
Okay.
And it kind of really blew a hole into that season. A lot of people stopped watching at that point.
Yeah.
But then in season 3, I came in episode 6. I was only supposed to do episode 6. And then within 4 or 5 hours of shooting that episode, the writers rewrote the next 8 episodes with me in it. I wouldn't have predicted that. I couldn't possibly have planned that or done anything to make that happen. It just happened to be one of those things that clicked. And then from there, I was in the next 2 or 3 seasons. I remember it's at Comic-Con. Tim, the showrunner of the show, walked back to the hotel with me. He goes, I had no idea what a fan base you have. And it was about a week after that my agent called and said, hey, you're in the next 8 episodes again. So it was great.
It's also how you treat people, which again is important. William, did you think you would get asked back 3 times after you were insulted by Simon and then perform on Ricky Martin?
No, of course not. I just thought I go back to be a normal student, and that's the end of the stardom road or stardom journey. But you know, sometimes you take what the opportunities that's given to you in your life and you make the most out of it.
What about I think the final story I want you to share with people is when you were teaching math.
Yeah.
And they couldn't take you seriously as the math teacher because they just kept seeing you as the she bangs guy.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit how you got them to respect you and how you were teaching math by song and things like that as our final story here.
Well, I was a student teacher, so back then having a master teacher was very, very helpful. And then I would say that it's not some big change that I made, because the students that's going to do well, they got to do well with me or with another teacher. The student that's not going to do well, they're not going to do well with most of the teachers there anyway. So it's not. So you know, sometimes like when you put things in perspective, you don't feel so bad about yourself. Once I got put that aside, I can just give it my best for every lesson I teach, and then just go from there.
Do you remember the song that you taught them?
Oh yeah, it was an algebra song. But just to put it, make sure it's like I did not create that song. I just heard this song by chance, and I thought it was really cute. So it goes something like this: positive times a positive equals a negative. Negative times a negative equals a positive.
Bravo! More standing ovation.
Wait. Time out.
Are you questioning the math?
Positive times positive equals negative? I'm sorry. I'm a teacher. That's probably why they didn't listen to me.
David, tell him. Go back to singing. Go back to singing.
I don't understand. I never heard that song before, and for good reason.
No. My mind was in the
you spun it. William just spun it. You made it an original. That's now an Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's now an original algebra. Now we know why David is not a math teacher anymore. Stick to singing and dancing. That's going to be my advice. Singing and dancing. And gaming. Yeah. Any final words? And we have some laughs. So you made them all laugh, which is what your brand is, in my opinion.
Hey,
any final words as we wrap up?
William, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just do what you enjoy. Find that joy and purpose every day. Stay happy and stay healthy. It's the most important thing you can do right now. Connect with people. Stay connected. Video calls, phone calls, whatever it takes. But yeah, like this too shall pass. It's gonna pass. And then when this is over, the world you evolve. The world will evolve, and everything will be better.
Agree. David?
This might be really difficult for people who are frustrated with what their life is like right now, frustrated with their progress in their journey. But one thing that you should know, and you can rely on, is that whatever you want to do, you are enough. You are enough. You have everything inside you that you need to do exactly what you want to do. And if you ever need anything more, if you ever need anything additional, it's amazing how it will be found inside you. You didn't think you had it, or it will be presented to you immediately at the moment that you need it, or that you will be able to find it with Google. There's this fear that we have that we're not enough, that we're fake, that we're not good enough to do what we want to do. And once you agree with the notion that you are enough, doors will open for you that you never thought possible.
You had both William and myself nodding, and I think every viewer in the chat is nodding. So thank you, David H. Lawrence, the 17th. Thank you, William Hung. Yes, hashtag that guy, William Hung. I love you both. Thank you for coming on the show. And I think we're going to have both of you as regular guests for our second and third segments. So and by the way, those of you who are watching, thanks for adapting with me over the past several months with the whole C19 issue. We've had to change times just based on when people can come, when celebrities can join us. So we've kind of popped around the time, and I think we're going to be consistent with a 4 p.m. Wednesday time, except for next Thursday, because we will have 2 people coming on. You'll probably have heard them. I'll make the announcement in my feed. We'll be talking about TikTok. We'll be talking about cybersecurity and like William was talking about streaming and gaming streaming, really the future of what is happening online. And again, will TikTok exist? Is it safe to use? So that'll be our topic next week. And because our celebrity guests like we have today needed a different time, it will be Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll keep doing the Wednesday show. So hopefully Wednesday shows will work with children's school schedules that's starting up again with all the Zooms. Hopefully our stream will work. I think we had a full stream here today. I think there were maybe 2 glitches, but thanks for being patient with some of the streaming issues. But thank you both, William and David, for showing up and giving us your best. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Aloha.